So, did your dad have an allotment or a garden?
Yes, we had both a garden and an allotment.
So what do you remember about that?
Oh, I used to always help him, or sort of planting the potatoes and everything. And the only thing I wouldn't touch was the big pile of manure, the horse muck. But saying that, when the horse and carts used to come in the street, my granddad used to make us go out and shovel the horse muck up for the roses to beat some of the neighbours.
Was there a lot of competition, was there?
For things like that, yes.
Yeah. Well, I remember my grandma Oliver, with having such a big family of 9, they had always a coal fire going, you know, and on this side there was a big steel thing, and on there was always a great big pan, and that pan was forever boiling, and things were put in there, and there was always broth.
All right.
You know, she would put all sorts of vegetables out the garden because they had big gardens.
Right.
And my granddad had pigeons.
Right.
And they used to grow all their own vegetables.
Did they ever eat the pigeons?
Ever what?
Eat the pigeons?
Oh, yes, they would eat the pigeons. Yes, sure. My grandma would make a pie of them when they got old.
Really?
Yes, oh, you wasted nothing. No, you had to eat everything. Yes. Yeah, you had to eat everything.
In the winter, was it really cold? Did you have...
Oh, it was bitter cold because my mother didn't have that much money to get any blankets and that, you know. And my mother used to make proggy mats, and we used to put them on the bed in the winter because they were brand new. And then in the summer they came, and the ones that were downstairs went out, and the new ones came in the sitting room, and then were progged again for the next year.
So your mum would have taught you that, how to do that?
Yes. And we went to everybody's house, helping them do their proggy mats, you know. And Teresa Dodds was one of our favourites because her husband was in the Merchant Navy and he used to bring fruit home. So we went progging like hell to get a banana or an apple or whatever.
Because fruit was a luxury then, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a real luxury. You know, that was the only time we got fruit because my mother just couldn't afford it. You know, it took her all that time to get the money for food. And my father used to put snares up for rabbits, to catch rabbits, to make rabbit dinners, you know. And when we had the rabbit dinners, they were beautiful, honestly beautiful.
Because of my father dying, you know, my mum didn't have much money, so, you know, we had to make do and mend, as the saying is, yeah. So she did a lot of knitting and, you know, and there was always home cooked food on the table. Nothing ever was processed. And if we did get something processed, which we went to Phoenix when she had a bit of money, that was her treat. You know, she would buy us a club biscuit, but you never see them now. But that was a major treat, the ones with the currants in, the fruit ones. Do you remember them? The club biscuits.
Them, yeah.
But like I say, that was a real treat. I mean, now you can have a chocolate biscuit any day now, can't you? Mm-hmm. But a chocolate biscuit was a major treat in my house.
If anybody died, Grandma had a little shop in Sandgate in Penrith, where the buses came in. It was a narrow shop. Little shop at the front and lived in, and 2 or 3 floors above. And if anybody died, they would call Mrs. Atkinson the wardrobe dealer. And it was only the people with money those days had anything to sell. She would go out, it would be mostly farms with the money, and she'd buy the clothes of whoever they were, and she started to gather them up. And in those days we had all these beautiful dolls that you get today, the proper, with the lovely hats on and the porcelain. She used to have a lot of those sort of things all up in the loft upstairs, and fans and jewellery and makeup. And we were allowed to go up there and play when we went to see her, but we could never take them home. Anyway, she started to worry because she was buying all this stuff, and she was cute, and I think this is where I take some of it from her. She got a lady to come in to start and make, because in those days every fabrics were cotton and wool, making little trousers for little boys and skirts for little girls, and started to cut up bits for prodded rugs. And we used to sit with her and do prodded rugs, and she used to sell them.
When I first got married, everything was, you had to have everything brand new, where nowadays I don't think that way at all.
And she used to always make my clothes and make her own clothes. And even today somebody laughed at me because I've still got a button box, a button tin that I have all spare buttons in. So if I want a button, but there's some people say, what do you want to do that for? It seems strange. But we used to repair things.
Yes.
Of course, I went in for sewing, so that was all right after
Did
that.
your mum teach you to sew?
Yes, a bit. And my nana, I should have called her my nana, she taught me to knit and read and things like that, more than what my mum did then, because my mum was busy work. She did housework and all that, you know. So I think my nana sort of taught me more.
I remember in the thing was not very big, but I remember one of the things we hated most of all was if Monday was washing day, but if it was a wet washing day, there used to be sheets hanging across.
That's like
where we're sitting,
yes,
you know.
Yes.
If we're sitting at the table here, the sheets were hanging up above us.
Yes.
And I remember, I think it was as much a social occasion. My mum, my aunt, Liz, and a couple of others, neighbours maybe, all sitting together, doing a proggy mat or a hooky mat, you know, cutting up old coats. So those were the things that sort of went down on the floor.
Well, when my mum and dad were at home, we watched them and nothing was wasted. So a piece of string or, you know, anything really. I remember my mum saying that in the war, after the war, I was born in 1950, so she couldn't get like bananas and things like that. So that sticks in my mind. But everything was just better then, I think. I know you say that, you think it was better then, but it seemed happy, you know. As today is more just gonna have everything yesterday. And I think I've brought my girls up to be the same, you know, not to waste stuff. And
Did you feel more appreciated of your possessions back then than they think?
Oh yeah, well even now, I mean, on about recycling and that. And if I've got any clothes, I mean, I'll go back home and I'll take me alright clothes off and put me dog clothes on. You know, and I tend to hold on to clothes, and I find it hard to throw them away, or give them to a good cause. But I will do that. But you just treasure stuff more and you look after stuff.
Actually, living down at East Cramlington, we had a tip.
Right.
And we used to go up the tip and find things.
Wow. Do you remember anything you found?
I'm lucky I'm still alive because, you know, all that you could have sunk and you wouldn't have been alive. Yeah. I used to play in the trucks and grab the electric wires.
But you had a great time.
Of course. Yes. And my mum always came out and like turned the rope or with dead bears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Knockledodians.
Yeah.
He went to work in a place called Commercial Plastics at Middle Quay, and he was what they called a scrap man, because all the ends and that, he had to cut them off and tidy up all the rolls and that. So consequently, we always had lots of small pieces, so short rolls of plastic. And my mum used to make all sorts of stuff out of plastic. We had the bathroom curtains were made out of plastic. The kitchen curtains were made out of plastic. They covered the dining chairs with plastic. And there was all sorts of different stuff, you know, and it was, but that's the way it was, you know.
That's great.
We had plastic tablecloths, and you name it, she could turn her hand and make something out of it.
So she was a very, very...
Oh, she was clever.
Because it was all, you know, homemade. And of course, my father's then, the back gardens were just full of vegetables.
Right.
And what little meat that you could buy, it was just stretched out. If there was a joint on a Sunday, my mum would make fresh Yorkshire puddings on a Monday. If there was anything left on a Tuesday, it was minced up, onions added, and a pie made.
Right.
So that lasted you all the time.
Like a lot of families, we had a few hand-me-downs, but it's rather embarrassing as a boy to be handed down your sister's boots, especially fur-coated ones in blue colour. Needless to say, after the winter they got binned, but it was a very sort of thing you had to do, basically. I think everything we had, a lot of things we had were passed down from generation to generation, simple as that.
So would your shoes have been mended?
Oh God, yes, many times. My main shoes probably as a 5-6-year-old were boots. And we used to do them at home, nail the soles on, nail the segs on. And when the soles when they couldn't afford the soles, they used bits of, rubber tyres. Remember the old man cutting a bicycle tyre into strips and nailing them onto the bottom of the boots. And then you put your segs in and clip-clop along the road. Yeah, definitely.
And she knit my bathing costume, and my dad had a car. He had an old Vauxhall 10, I think it was. And we used to go down to the beach, and I had my costume on. Of course, with it being knitted, it went down past my knees when I come out the water. And that was hilarious.
Like my dad just putting anything on the fire. Big shoes, the whole lot. He wouldn't hide nothing out. Wouldn't. Not even a broken cup. Went the garden. He did something with the leaks, but smashed the chain open to keep the cats off. Remember? Well, my mum just making knitting and because my cousin always remembers this. He said I was the only one at school that had a knitted black and white top. He did, and it was just things like that, you know. And the things he used to make to eat, boiled a pig's head. Oh. Honest to God, that was my mother. My dad used to keep pigs and kill them. Honest. I can remember he had this thing like a hanging thing in the yard, and I just must have been about 3 or 4, and he got me with a spoon to stir the bottom to make black pudding.
My first two-wheeler bike was from my auntie, and it was a real old-fashioned plain black bike, and at the time it was far too big for me, so my dad made wooden chocks to go either side of the pedals so my legs would reach so I could have this bike. But what I liked better than my bike, I had a bogie, which was, I don't know how you'd describe it, a sledge. It didn't have runners the way a sledge did, but it had wheels, 4 wheels. So if you can imagine an oblong bit of wood, 4 wheels on, and then a bit sticking out with 2 wheels on, and you steered it. Do you know where the wheels came from? Old prams. They were old pram wheels. But I absolutely loved that bogie. But I mean, then there wasn't as many cars on the road. You felt quite safe, you know, but you had to watch, because if there was a car parked and you were talking to your friend, there's been a few near misses, but thankfully there were near misses.
So my mum used to go there on a Monday, and we used to go along there and help with the washing, and she had the old like mangles still and things like that.
I don't know about recycling, like, they just made like a lot of things at Christmas, or then again at Christmas time. I remember them getting like the strips of paper and making like the decorations and things like that.
And how did that make you feel?
It was nice. I think I had a nice childhood actually. Very close family. Both my mum and dad came from big families, and they were the youngest of both families.
Obviously going to second-hand stalls. Sometimes there'd be jumble sales for various charities or whatever, going for them. On occasions, my mum would pull a knitted jumper out and re-knit it smaller, which wasn't always very nice. And just sort of, she tried not to throw anything out. She did a lot of home baking.
Oh, I can remember the steam train used to come round around the village, and it'd have the coal on the back, and it would go to the pit, and and friends used to go past the pit on walks down to Brunton, and there was always pit ponies and that in the stables, and would play in the fields in the little wood that was there. And we would go blackberrying when they were in season. And everybody just used to go out and play. In those days, you'd play in the back lane with the hitchy dabber and two balls. It's where you used to chalk bays and put numbers in, and you had a tin, probably a boot polish tin with a stone in to keep it weighted, and you'd throw it into one of the bays. It would be numbered from 1 to 10, and whichever it was, you got that many goes.
Do you recycle things today?
Yes, everything.
What is specifically, is there a specific thing that you do
The
all
tin,
the time?
I do it all.
Everything.
Everything gets recycled. The veg goes down to my brother's chickens. Old bread goes to the chickens. All the cartons and tins are all recycled. It's what I can't get rid of. I mean, the dog eats quite a bit of the stuff.
Yeah.
Because she likes her scraps.
Aye, just one.
But I do recycle
everything.
I've got blue and green, and yeah, it's got to be done.
But my grandma on my mum's side, she used to make me granddad's pit socks with well, obviously knitted them, but she used to pull jumpers if they were too small or getting raggy. She would take them to bits, and I would sit for hours with my arms stretched out while she wound the wool round and round my arms. I remember sitting doing that, but that was mine in her time.
I have just remembered when I had my son, he's now 49, yes, 49. My mum decided it was so expensive to buy boat cot sheets and pram sheets. She decided it would be much cheaper to buy double sheets, cut them all down, hem them all, and I would get loads more for the money, something I would never be able to do.
Well, I tell you what they did do. We used to go for blackberries a lot. Yes. Make blackberries pies and different things with blackberries. And apples. We used to go to an orchard maybe and buy a big bag of apples and do something with that, you know. And rhubarb, of course, that was very popular. My granddad used to grow that in his garden. And I'll tell you what my granddad did with me when I was just little. He had his pigeons, you know, and he had his hut there, and he says, "Come on, Papa, come on, Pud, I want to show you." So he took me right round the back of this hut, and here's all the what they call it, the rhubarb growing, and he says, "I'll tell you something, Peg." He's such a gentle old man, you know. I says, "What?" He says, "If you want to wee-wee," he says, "get one on there." He says, "'cause it makes it grow and it's lovely." So he says, don't tell your nana I've told you mine.
I remember my mum with a bag for the veggies, and the potatoes went in first. They weighed them with the big scales, and the potatoes went in first, and then the dirty carrots, and then the turnips, all the veggie, and the veg was in there. And then the other stuff was put in the other bags, like your bread and all this sort of stuff. And then we used to trundle all the way back down the hill and all the way back up the hill to home.
So you obviously took your bags with you all the time?
Always took your bag. There was no such thing as plastic carrier bags. Nothing like that at all. Or these, bags that you have nowadays in the supermarkets.
I'd get obviously things like shoes and trousers, you would get them bought. But I never ever had a store-bought pullover. My mum always knitted them.
Right.
Or one of my aunties. And socks. Right. Socks were always wool and knitted. And and like as Christine was saying, like being the firstborn, you sort of I got the new pants and that.
So did your pants get passed down?
But my pants would be passed to my little brother,
right.
And later on to my other little brother.
So would they get altered?
Yeah, taken in. She had a friend lives just opposite her, who had an old Singer sewing machine, and she would do the alteration. I always remember when I was a kid, if your shirt collar got worn and it frayed, they used to separate the collar from the shirt, and a friend with a sewing machine just turn the collar around and stitch it back on, so you had it would only be worn on the inside, and nobody would see it, and it was just like a new shirt.
But that's another thing we did. You got on about waste, etc. What, like potato peelings and cabbage, the what you would normally throw away, we used to take it to a woman 2 doors down because she had hens, and that was boiled up. Boilie, they called it, to feed the hens and the chickens. Right. So, of course, we would get a couple of eggs every time we took this peelings to her.
I used to make the tea or the dinner, because I was probably the only one to because my sister by that. Most of the time my sister was out or working by then. So I quickly learned to cook and fend do the shopping as well. That was one of my jobs. Saturday morning going shopping. Although the co-op van used to pull up at least once a week anyway with all the boxes of stuff. But I used to like going and getting things like the meat and stuff because it came wrapped up in white paper. And I used to claim that white paper. I used to draw pictures on the white paper, armies fighting, all this sort of stuff, and I thought that was brilliant, yeah.
So that was certainly recycling back
then. That was recycling.
The only thing I can remember was taking pop bottles down to the shop and getting a penny for them when we had drank the lemonade, because the pop man used to come round, and Joby Dixon used to come with furniture if anybody was buying new furniture. I remember Joby Dixon, and it was the Queen's coronation, and the street was all lots of tables and chairs out with all the kids. There was party time. And we were all dressed like the Queen with our little crowns on, and Joby Dixon used to get on his cart.
So was he collecting furniture?
He used to collect furniture.
Old furniture?
Yeah, old furniture, or if anybody wanted some moved, he used to do removals as well.
What did he do with the furniture when he collected it?
I think he used to sell it on to other people. It was like a way of making a living with what he did, But he was a lovely man, and he used to take us down to the galas in the gala field, and we used to dress up as whatever we wanted to do. I went as a cowgirl, and it was brilliant. And then you got your little packet with your orange in, and I think it was £1 in at that time, and it was just a wonderful childhood.
Me and my friend used to go to the
it was a tip, and they must have dropped all this like vinyl material and make into mend. And we used to collect it off the tip and make little square bags, like sew them by hand and put a handle on. Or my sister, she made a bag out of a pair of jeans. She just sewed up the bum and put a handle on. That was her bag for school. So it just showed you just
made do.
You just made do. There was no going to Oasis and buying a nice bag for school.
Christmas, Easter, my mum used to make us a new dress. Now, as I say, the sister next to me in age, she used to dress us the same, which we hated. It was always, she would make us the same dress, the same big bow of ribbon in the hair, and a big bow of ribbon, a big belt sash on the dress with a bow at the back, which we hated. And it wasn't until as we got older we protested about it.
But it was always handmade. It was
always handmade, yes. She did have a little one of those treadle sewing machines, which she used to use.
There was never anything from the shop bought?
No. Coats, things like that, outerwear. But no, she would make the dresses.
She used to hang me the jumble suit with her. Did. Jumble suits. I was only little and my gran used to... Because they used to always say, oh, Ethel's been to the jumble sale again. There was a line full of washing.
My dad, oh God, this is a good memory. Pressure cooker. We had a pressure cooker, big status symbol pressure cooker. He got a sheep's head and he was doing broth. You know, and I was horrified, but he was trying to, it must have been cheap. So we had this big sheep's head with eyes in it. He said the eyes were left in it, so it saw you through the week. It was gross. But, you just had to get what you could. I mean, he come from an Irish family. They would have had no money. His dad worked the shipyards in Newcastle. They would have had nothing. They would have come over, the potato famine probably. And so people just survived the best way they could.
Can you think of any recycling activities that you remember and that you still do now?
Me, I don't really think I do that many now. I don't waste things, but I don't think people used to turn their sheets at one time. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, because the middle would wear out in the olden days. The middle would wear out the sheets, and they would take the outer bits and put them together and sew down the middle, and then they would have like a new sheet. Look a bit odd, but people had to do that.
I can't remember being hard up. Then, I can now, but I can't remember being hard, being hard up, so I cannot remember that.
So did your mum do all the cooking?
Yeah.
And did your dad grow any of the veggies?
No, my granddad did, because he had a what do you mean? Allotment, yeah. And I used to go down there a lot and bring the stuff back. So my mum did the cooking. My dad didn't have an allotment, no, just my granddad.
Right. So, but did you get stuff from his allotment?
Yeah.
What about the ragman, when the ragman used to come?
Tell me about the ragman.
Now, that was a good thing. You used to save all your rags up. And when the ragman used to come, you could go, and sometimes you could get a goldfish. We had a goldfish about 20 years.
Really?
And we couldn't get a proper bowl for it. So my mum bought a big one that you put the sweets in, the big
jars,
sweet,
yes.
and it just had to swim around like that. And we kept it on the windowsill. We had a big windowsill. And we put it the winter, and when we got up here, it was all frozen over, and the poor little goldfish was inside. We thought it was dead. We all cried our eyes out. Anyhow, we went to school. When we come back, my mum was standing at the door. Ha 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 ha. Come on. There was a goldfish swimming around. Yeah, it had melted, the snow and the ice had melted and it just went swimming around again.
Now, what does make, do and mend mean to you?
To use what you've already got. Yeah, to make something else.
What does make, do and mend mean to you?
Well, I still do that. I think my nana did. My mum never did. She wasn't very good at sewing and doing things, but I can remember being at school and having knee-high socks. I think we all did. And the elastic used to always go. You only probably had one pair. You had to wash them every night. And you had elastic band where you had elastic around the top and you used to fold the band over to keep your socks up. In my last year at school, I can remember my skirt was getting so short and it was getting tight for us. So I put a little bit of material in between beside my zip so I could still wear for the last year because we didn't have much wear.
Make, do and mend. It would mean you wouldn't ask for help for money. You would live with what you had.
What does make, do and mend mean to you?
It means, still do it. My mum did it. Thinking objects you've got, what else you can use for instead of throwing them away. So, you know, say even newspapers. When I was a kid, we used to make Christmas decorations. We didn't have glitter like we've got now. And so we used to make chains out of the newspapers. And I'll tell you that. Bunty. Do you remember? You won't remember the bunty. Do you remember the bunty?
I do.
I think about the bunty. Me and my sister laugh about this. They had a little doll drawn on and you could get dresses, but they had like little tags on the side you cut out, coloured in, so you could fit it onto the doll. There was fights at the newsagents to get these, you know. And you think now all the dolls have got now. And we just had these little ones and we were thrilled with them.
Make, do and mend. Well, we did a lot of that because there wasn't the money. Being the third girl, I got a lot of hand-me-downs. And I also have 26 cousins. And I was at the younger end of all these cousins. I did get a lot of hand-me-downs.
26 cousins?
26 cousins, yeah.
Everybody in the village that I knew, and you knew everybody, because it was a really small place, and you knew everybody by name, and everybody practiced that make, do and mend.
What does make, do and mend mean to you?
Don't throw it out. try and fix it if you can, but I don't think they do that now.
If you can't buy it new, you've got to try and either use recycled or, you know, jumble sales and stuff like that.
Make, do and mend means that, you know, you make do with what you've got. If you can't afford anything new, then you go and find stuff that is cheaper, but i.e. going into a charity shop or anything like that.